Hello and welcome to episode 86 of Magic Rays of Light, a podcast exploring the world of Apple TV and so much more. This week's episode is brought to you by Sequel. I'm your host, Devon Dundee. I'm joined as always by my co-host, Sigmund Judge. Sigmund, how's your week been?
It has been wet. It's been a very wet week, but it's been an exciting week. On top of trips to hospital, I've had trips to the cinema, which has been really, really cool. I have been working on my fitness. It's been a couple of months now since we touched upon it. Slowly getting through workouts. Ever so slowly, but it is working. I'm starting to see some weight loss, and I'll be quite honest with you, there was a recent story about Nate Gorby and his weight loss through Apple Fitness Plus and through the Apple Watch, which I found really inspiring. How's your week been?
My week's been good as well. I've been dodging some storms here, kind of staying inside a little bit more, but that was a chance to do the new Apple Fitness Plus International Day of Yoga workout, which included all the trainers from Fitness Plus in one room. They were very tightly packed in there doing those yoga moves together, but it was a lot of fun seeing everybody all in one place and getting to work out with them. So yeah, a little bit of fitness stuff on my end too, mostly walking, but doing yoga when I'm inside. And of course, lots and lots of Apple TV as well. There's tons to cover in the world of Apple TV this week. And coming up on the show, we've got a recap of buddy comedy series Platonic, a look at Apple's more than 50 Emmy Awards nominations, and we'll start with our highlight of the return of sci-fi epic Foundation. Based on the award-winning novels by Isaac Asimov, Foundation chronicles a band of exiles on their monumental journey to save humanity and rebuild civilization amid the fall of the Galactic Empire.
I have dreams about things that will happen. Death, destruction, even bigger than the last crisis.
The Foundation is a threat to me. We have to face them. We are taking the planet! If there is war, we will win.
So, Devon, it's been a little while since season 1 of Foundation. Very, very excited to welcome season 2. I think a vast experience compared to what we saw with season 1. But where do we pick up on season 2? Because there is a ton going on, and no doubt you will be able to recap us better than me.
I'll do my best. Well, at the end of season 1, of course, we had a 138-year time jump thanks to some cryo sleep for both Gale and Salvor. And so we pick up with them as they wake up and we're in this new point in galactic history. The Foundation is thriving in secret on Terminus, awaiting a new message from Harry Seldon. A new generation of Empire rules in Trantor over a shrinking domain, with Brother Day, now Cleon the 17th, considering marriage after learning the genetic dynasty has been compromised. Seldon's consciousness is trapped in a mysterious four-dimensional prison, and Salvor and Gale together on Synex use the Prime Radiant to discover that history has strayed from Seldon's plan since the first crisis, and must be corrected during the second crisis in order to avoid an eternal dark age.
Wow, that's a lot. Foundation, I don't think is really a show that you can jump into fresh on the second season. In fact, I'd almost say that it's difficult to jump into even with season 1 behind you, especially if you viewed season 1 on its release, because it's been a little while. And much like the books, I found myself getting a little bit lost. Maybe I'm just looking too deep into things. I'm looking into the mathematics and the science elements maybe a little bit too hard, because things are a bit more magical and a bit more mystical this time around.
Yeah, and I love the science and math of all of it too. That definitely appeals to my mind. But I think really what they're doing with Foundation, you hear the synopsis that I just said, and it's got all these very kind of high-minded, kind of high fantasy, high sci-fi in it. But I think what they're really doing with Foundation is packaging it in a way that can be approachable to more people. And it might involve a little bit of hand-holding, a little bit of maybe over-explaining certain things, especially as we're getting into the second season. There's been like 3 or 4 mentions during this first episode of the 138-year time jump. just to make sure everyone knows where they're at timeline-wise. But for me, even during the first season, when the timelines were not quite as clear, you didn't know exactly where you were at any given point during the season, I think they did a really good job of tying it together and helping you orient and really understand what's going on. So I love sci-fi, and I'm like you, I love the details. I want to know the laws surrounding gravity jumping and, all the little things that go into psycho history and all that kind of stuff. But for someone who maybe isn't as familiar with that kind of genre, I think they could still jump into this and enjoy it as a story and get some of those benefits of the sci-fi without necessarily having to dig so deep and having read the books and all that good stuff.
This opening episode that we get this week does a lot of hand-holding, a lot of explaining, very much like the beginning of season 1. And what I would say is the patience and everything, there is a payoff at the end. If season 1's anything to go by, there are many characters with a lot going on. But tell me a bit more about Gao and Salvor and where they're at.
Well, we followed their journeys in season 1, both figuring out, or at least coming to terms with the fact that they both have special abilities. And I think we knew throughout season 1 that there was some kind of connection between the two of them, but we didn't learn until towards the end that, of course, their mother and daughter, Gale is Salvor's mother, through some interesting storytelling methods and some interesting science there. And, of course, thanks to the cryosleep, they're both pretty close to the same age now. They're almost peers by the time they actually meet up with each other and connect. And so when we pick up with them in season 2, they're together finally, but they're still coming to terms with the reality of their relationship. Gale did not know that she had a daughter, that she had any children at all. And so this is a shock to her that she's coming to terms with. But also Salvor is trying to connect with her on these visions that she's having because she believes that they're coming from Gale, or at least from Gale's memories. And Gale, of course, has glimpses of the future. And so they have these very interesting abilities that seem to be related in some way, but we don't totally know exactly how that's going to play out. But they're together now. They're trying to figure this thing out. They're trying to get history back on track and save the human race, which is what they've been trying to do all along. But I'm very excited to see them on this journey together, to see them continue to explore their abilities, and to see how their abilities relate to this psychohistory and Selden's plan. From what we know about the synopsis of season 2, we know that they're going to be discovering more people with some of those same kinds of abilities and how that might influence the future path that the Empire is going on. And so I'm very interested to see that, not only just because I'm a nerd and I like, that kind of sci-fi stuff, but also to see how it impacts their relationship and really see them become a team. I think that's going to be part of that payoff that you're talking about in season 2.
Season 2 of Foundation makes its global debut this weekend on Apple TV+, and we'll be talking about Foundation throughout its 10-episode rollout, available across all of your screens.
Very exciting to have Foundation back on our screens this week. Another thing on our screens this week was a new trailer for Physical Season 3. I know we're both excited for this one. Sheila Rubin is a quietly tormented housewife in 80s San Diego. Behind closed doors, she battles extreme personal demons and a vicious inner voice. But things change when she discovers aerobics, sparking a journey toward empowerment and success.
You are a national television personality now.
We're building a place for women to be free of judgment.
There's just one problem. Kelly Kilmartin. I'm better than you. She's fake and a liar. We have to take aim and fire back at Kelly.
This is more than just a business for me. This is my life.
Isn't one of the steps in your recovery integrity?
Recovery's a long road.
All right, well, I'm really, really excited for Physical Season 3. I've enjoyed the first 2. And the journey of not only Sheila, but everyone around her, actually, who seem to be on their own separate journeys. And of course, we've met some crazy characters along the way as well. Sheila looks to be in a really good place, having conquered some of her demons. But there seems to be a demon personified by a new character. I know it's one that you are super, super excited about. Tell me about the new edition of Kelly Kilmartin.
Yes, this is the character played by Zooey Deschanel. I was very interested to see what they would do with her. We knew that she was coming into season 3. And all the different scenarios that I imagined of the character she could be playing, this is like the best possible version of that. She is a rival aerobics instructor who beats Sheila to the punch on this whole TV aerobics thing that Sheila's pursuing. Along the way, of course, they're competitive with each other, but she also kind of becomes Sheila's inner voice. Of course, the first 2 seasons, we hear Sheila talking to herself, putting herself down, and grappling with those inner demons. But it seems like in season 3, now that she's overcome those, now this outside voice is rooting its way into her mind and becoming that for her. And so she's battling this person not only for, ratings and sales, but also just for the way that this person makes her feel. And so I think her journey this season is not only going to be, of course, her own mental health and, sort of beating those things that she's been grappling with the first 2 seasons, but now also the comparison, right, with other people. We know that Sheila is ruthless. We know that she knows what she wants. And we even know from the opening of season 1 that she seems to get there. But season 3 is really going to show us how she gets there and what she has to sacrifice in order to do so.
Really looking forward to breaking a sweat with this one, Devon. Of course, season 3 of Physical debuts Wednesday, August 2nd, with its first 2 of 10 episodes. So not too long to wait for that. Definitely a highlight for the week. But I think my trailer highlight for this week, Devon, is of course the film adaptation of Napoleon, an original and personal look at French emperor and military leader's origins and his swift, ruthless climb to emperor. The film captures Napoleon's famous battles, relentless ambition, and astounding strategic mind as an extraordinary military leader and war visionary.
Everyone around here.
What is this costume you have on?
This is my uniform.
Everyone so near.
I led the French victory at Toulon.
What is your name?
Napoleon.
As the course of my life just changed. Napoleon.
I'm destined for greatness. But those in power will only see me as a sword.
I suggest you take the throne
As a king.
Holding on.
This film's directed by Ridley Scott with a screenplay by David Scarpa. Of course, it stars Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon himself. And the interesting part about this film really is that it's viewed through the prism of Napoleon's addictive and often volatile relationship with his wife and one true love, Josephine, played by Vanessa Kirby, who we get a little bit of in the trailer, but I imagine we're going to be getting a lot of in the film when it does come out. I have to tell you, Sigmund, I watched this trailer multiple times this week to take it all in. There is so much going on here. I think we knew, just based on who was involved and how long the production process has been going, that this was going to be big. But the only word that I could think of after watching this trailer so many times is epic. Of course, the person that it's covering, the life that he lived, the things that he did, and the scale of the set pieces and battles and all of that, it all just looks really big and really impactful. And I'm excited that this is one of Apple's first forays into the wide theatrical release. Of course, we got Killers of the Flower Moon in October, and then this is their next big one. And so I think this is a great fit for that. I think this is going to be a really, really interesting and enjoyable watch when it does hit theaters. What did you think of the trailer?
I watched this trailer, I think 10 times already. It's just mind-boggling, and I just want to kind of go into not only the trailer, but a little bit about this film, because what I really like about this approach from Ridley Scott is that this is a nuanced look at a human being that just so happens to be Napoleon, right? The working title of this was Kit Bag, which derives from the saying, "There is a general's staff hidden in every soldier's kit bag, which I thought was interesting. The title obviously changed to Napoleon, and Ridley Scott had this to say: "Napoleon is a man I've always been fascinated by. He came out of nowhere to rule everything, but all the while he was waging a romantic war with his adulterous wife Josephine. He conquered the world to try to win her love, and when he couldn't, he conquered it to destroy her, and ended up destroying himself in the process." Now, in terms of the trailer itself, I think it's absolutely insane. I think it's probably my favourite of the year in film, full stop. And it's mainly to do with the cinematography. I think it's sublime. And I could screen grab pretty much every shot and place it in a gallery without it feeling out of place. Director of photography for this feature film is Dariusz Wolski, who you will know for his work on Sweeney Todd, The Last Duel, Prometheus, and of course The Martian. So a few of those Ridley Scott films, as you'll be aware. At CinemaCon earlier this year, Sony and Apple showed the audience a 10-minute scene of a battle taking place on a frozen over lake that had everyone in that theatre on tenterhooks, given the horrific, visceral action and tension within it. Some of which is briefly shown in the trailer that we've seen this week. But the first question for those that were in attendance for that was whether or not a feature-length film would be able to maintain that level of intensity throughout. Looking at this trailer, I think we've got the answer, and I cannot wait. What I think is really powerful about this as well is obviously we have that high level of conflict in terms of the wars that were waged, but then of course you have that romantic relationship and the conflict within that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how everything is pieced together. I cannot wait to see this on the big screen. Napoleon invades theatres globally November 22nd before streaming on Apple TV Plus soon thereafter. A really, really exciting first look, but not the only first look that we got this week.
That's right. We got a couple of first looks at upcoming series, maybe not trailers yet, but we've got some fun photos to share. First up, Apple original drama series The Changeling, starring Lakeith Stanfield and Clark Backo, will make its global debut on Friday, September 8th, with its first 3 episodes. Based on the book of the same name by Victor LaValle, The Changeling is a fairy tale for grown-ups, a horror story, a parenthood fable, and a perilous odyssey through New York City you didn't know existed. If you want a first look at that series, you can follow the link in the show notes and get a glimpse of what that show is going to look like. And of course, this week we also got the announcement of The Supermodels, a new 4-part documentary event which will premiere Wednesday, September 20th on Apple TV+. The series spotlights the remarkable careers of Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista, and Christy Turlington. Unprecedented access to the models takes viewers behind the camera and beyond the catwalk, revealing how they dominated the elite modeling world while eliminating a bond that single-handedly shifted the power dynamic of an entire industry. We got a 20-second teaser trailer for that one that we will also link in the show notes. Be sure to check out both of those first looks and get excited for these 2 series coming to Apple TV Plus in September.
Of course, you can find all release dates in our free Apple TV release calendar, where you can check out all of the releases as and when they come through, and formatted for Siri, so Siri will be able to tell you everything that's coming that day as part of your daily briefing. Devon, I've got to tell you, I'm secretly looking forward to the Supermodels. One thing that has been a big part of fashion, and we've seen on the catwalk in previous years, have been headphones, funnily enough. Of course, the Beats brand, a massive brand before being sold by Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine to Apple, and Beats Music, which became Apple Music, and obviously Beats One turned into Apple Music One. But it looks like we're about to introduce a new pair of headphones, the Beats Studio Pro. Tell me a little bit about these.
Well, if the rumors are to be believed, we can expect Beats Studio Pro to release this coming Wednesday with noise cancellation, transparency mode, USB-C, and, believe it or not, Sigmund, a 3.5mm headphone jack. Now, these are over-ear headphones, course, Beats sells a variety of headphones. They've got on-ears, they've got in-ears, but these are kind of the big, almost maybe even flagship ones. They go all the way around your ears, and they have the best sound quality that you can get out of these wireless headphones that Beats sells. And so it's not featuring an H chip like the AirPods do. It's meant to be compatible with both iPhone and Android. So they put some optimizations in there for the Android side as well. But these sound very exciting. It's a pretty big update to the Beats Studio brand. And I think it's really putting that hardware in line with some of the more current AirPods technology as well.
Listeners will probably be wondering the important things like colors, comfort, battery life, and price. I think we have some answers for at least a few of those.
Yes, again, based on the rumors that we've heard, it seems like the price is going to be about $350 in the US and about £399 in Europe. As far as colors, you're going to have 4 options. You're going to have black, white, blue, and deep brown. So that's an interesting addition. And then battery life, the rumor is that it's going to be up to 40 hours. Of course, that will depend on if you're using noise cancellation, transparency, stuff like that. But it's still an impressive amount of time for a set of headphones. We don't have any solid rumors on the exact weight yet, but just based on Beats' history of both comfort and materials, I think we're going to be good on weight. I think they really do a good job of nailing that, and especially with that over-ear design, I think that's a very comfortable way to make headphones because they're not pushing on your ears themselves. You can kind of distribute that weight a little bit better across the head as well. So these sound like real winners to me. I'm definitely tempted by them. For people who maybe AirPods Max are a little bit out of their price range, but they want that really high quality, or if they're Android users and they want, the most compatibility with their devices, I think this could be really, really compelling.
The thing that I'm looking forward to, which we're starting to hear little murmurs and little rumours about, are AirPods Max. I know they didn't really work for you, Devon, but as you can see every week, if you're backstage, you'll know I use AirPods Max pretty much at the gym, sometimes for private cinema listening, and definitely for podcast recording. And therefore, as you can imagine, that's what I'm going to be waiting for, Devon. And with that, I thought we could take a few moments to go over a few things that I hope to see come to the next generation of AirPods Max. The first one, I think, has got to be being able to actually turn AirPods Max off, because there isn't an official way of being able to power them off and on. I think that would be really, really helpful. But also, I think in terms of comfort and weight, there needs a little bit of work there. And that might actually happen not just through a weight loss and maybe a change in materials, but also through a bit of modularity. Now, one thing that we found out really early on with AirPods Max is that there is a way, of course, of being able to change the ear cups, which are magnetic, nice and easy. But it looks like Apple wanted to go a step further, but didn't. Because just by using the pin that you get with an iPhone, you can actually detach the headband from the ear cups on AirPods Max. And I would really like to see them go the Apple Watch route with the next version. Maybe have a nice leather band for when I'm at home. Maybe have a more lightweight band for sports activities. But also, maybe there will be some interoperability with Apple Vision Pro, because we've seen so far that Apple Vision Pro is being marketed to work with AirPods Pro 2. But I really love the sound and the experience of AirPods Max. And I could imagine a band being able to interconnect with your AirPods Max second or first generation, maybe through a tool of some kind. So just a little bit of speculation on my part. Of course, we're both really excited for Beats Studio Pro, but I am interested to know. So it's not the over-ear headphones that you're put off by or the noise cancellation. It was more the weight and the pressure of the original AirPods Max. And these Beats Studio Pro are probably more along the lines of what you're looking for.
I'm not sure. I think it's the clamping pressure of the headphones actually going to your head and having to clamp a little bit harder than maybe previous generations in order to get that seal for active noise cancellation. Because before the AirPods Max, I actually tried the Beats Solo Pros when they went the AirPods route there too, and they added active noise cancellation. And I really struggle with those as well for the same reason. They just put so much pressure on my head, it gives me headaches. I love the sound quality. I'm so happy that things like this exist and for people like you who are able to enjoy them. But it does break my heart a little bit sometimes because, I want to be in that club too. So who knows? I might have to give these a try and see if there's some kind of adjustment to them that makes them work for me. And I'll definitely be keeping my eye on AirPods Max Generation 2. If there's any kind of customizability to them, maybe I could find a headband that works for me and I could get them working. I don't know. One can dream, right, Sigmund?
Absolutely. Well, you've got 2 rolls of the dice this year, I think, because that's when we expect to see the AirPods Max at the end of this year, repeating that 3-yearly cycle that we see with the AirPods line. And hopefully they're more accessible for you. And in terms of accessibility, of course, it is Accessibility Awareness Month all month this month, and Sony PlayStation had something really, really interesting up their sleeve that I wanted to talk about, and that's the PlayStation Access Controller, not yet confirmed to be compatible with Apple devices, though you'd imagine that compatibility will come, and we'll probably see this controller eventually make its way to Apple stores, just like the DualSense controller, and the DualSense Edge controller, which is now compatible with Apple TV as of the last tvOS update. This Access controller is really interesting. It's a circular controller that's deeply customizable, designed to accommodate any player's specific needs. And what I really like about this is there you can have adjustments to stick sensitivity. You have 4 different profiles for, I guess, different games or maybe even different users altogether. There is a 360-degree orientation because of that circular design. And you have 4 expansion ports as well. You can also map buttons to create up to 30 control profiles alongside the adjustment of stick settings, toggle commands on and off for different buttons, or you can disable the buttons altogether to stop accidental pressing. And the Access controller can be paired with another Access, a PS5 DualSense controller, or up to 4 additional third-party accessibility accessories. It's going to retail for a suggested price of $89.99, US only for the moment. Pre-order is on July 21st, available in the US on December 6th. I can see, especially that element where you can have multiple people connect with additional controllers. I think that could be a really fun use case, not just on the accessibility field, but just as co-op play for Apple Arcade games in the future, and then obviously your traditional gaming consoles as well. What are your thoughts on this? Because my mind was blown.
Yeah, this sounds really great. I love how customizable it is because a part of accessibility is giving people the options to make it their own and fit their needs. And actually, when we got to the price, I was surprised how affordable this kind of thing is too, because a part of accessibility is making it available to people, and hopefully it'll have an international rollout very quickly. But yeah, this all sounds great, and we love to see accessibility expanding to more and more areas. Of course, we always celebrate when Apple does that kind of thing, but when we see companies like Microsoft and Sony bringing gaming to more and more people as well, we just love to see that. Now, speaking of Sony, they've teamed up with Apple to offer PlayStation owners up to 6 months of free Apple TV Plus through July 31st. Now, this offer is for new subscribers only, so if you're already subscribed to Apple TV Plus, you can't extend your subscription through this. But, if you're a PlayStation owner and you haven't given Apple TV Plus a try yet, you can go download the Apple TV app and get 6 months for free.
Now, I don't know if you remember, Devon, but years ago, there was this cool little Easter egg in macOS when you went into profile icons. There was this one icon, and it was of a record, right? And on its B side, it had Magic, Revolution, Boom, and unbelievable, made in California. It was this Apple record. I thought it was really, really cool. It was something that actually I want to kind of mock up and have as my dust mat whilst the record player isn't being used. But that idea might get replaced altogether because we got our second Apple TV related release from Mondo announced this week, coming to both fans online and attendees at San Diego Comic-Con. Tell us a little bit about this one.
This is a 7-inch vinyl of the Ted Lasso theme, which is very, very cool to have on vinyl. Of course, that's one of those songs I cannot help but belt out and start, kind of banging my head anytime I hear it. Such a great song. As you mentioned, there's going to be 2 editions. They're both listed as San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, but one will be available at the con itself and one will be available online. Both include Marcus Mumford's theme on the A side, with the B side offering the second season stripped down take, performed and produced by Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter and musician Jeff Tweed of Wilco. Now the Richmond edition, that's the one available online. It's limited to a run of 2,500 and will go on sale at mondoshop.com this Wednesday, July 19th at 10 a.m. Pacific. But if you want an even more exclusive edition, there's an edition that has a soccer ball printed on the disc, and that will be available exclusively to those attending San Diego Comic-Con who visit the Mondo booth at 5137. But you're going to be really quick to grab those because there are only 500 copies available.
I don't want to see any on eBay. I just want to see them loved because it's going to break my heart to see any on eBay. I also love this theme. Don't bang my head to it. I just want to make sure your head banging is not against something. You're just doing it in enjoyment, right?
Yeah, for me, headbanging is not a protest. It's like a sign of approval.
I'm only teasing. From San Diego Comic-Con to some in-production news now. Previously set up at Apple TV Plus, the Latino comic book series adaptation of El Gato Negro has reportedly made the jump to Netflix. Deadline reported this week that Wednesday producer Andrew Mittman is now on board the project from Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, that's a little bit disappointing, but it's just one of those behind-the-scenes things that happens sometimes. Projects move from time to time. The big behind-the-scenes stories out of Hollywood this week, though, has to be that the Screen Actors Guild is officially going on strike after negotiations with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers did not end in agreement being met. Like the Writers Guild, SAG members' concerns center around economic changes caused by the shift to streaming and the influence of artificial intelligence on the industry. This is the first time since 1960 that both actors and writers are on strike at the same time, bringing most Hollywood productions to a halt.
I would say, first off, these actions have to take place to be able to get better deals. There is a struggle in terms of power in Hollywood right now. We often hear about the big money, in terms of how much a production cost, how much a famous actor or a famous director or producer got to make a piece. But they are kind of few and far between because the industry is huge. Writers, sometimes in a second room, actors. When we talk about actors, we are also talking about the talent behind the main focal point, sometimes even stand-ins as well. These kind of roles from talents that eventually we're likely to see in the future take the full spotlight.
Yeah, you mentioned that they're fighting for better deals. I would even put it a different way. They're fighting for fair deals, right? The industry's changing, and these kinds of negotiations only come up so often. This is a kind of a point where they're going to be stuck with this agreement for quite some time, and so they want to make sure that they're not only speaking to where the industry is now, but where it's going. I think it's natural, given just how much the industry has shifted with the change to streaming, that it's natural there's going to be some disagreements over how exactly that's going to play out. But at the end of the day, I think you and I are in agreement that the people who write and the people who act in these projects that we love so much, that we talk about every week, deserve to be paid fair wages for their contributions. We hope to see these strikes come to an end through fair deals for these folks as soon as possible so we can get back to enjoying all the news out of these productions and getting these stories back underway. But in the meantime, of course, we stand with those who are striking and we hope for the best for them.
I feel quite blessed to know that we have so many brilliant films and TV shows that I haven't even got round to watching on the TV app. So we'll be able to fill our hours and be entertained in the meantime until those fair deals are in place. And fingers crossed those fair deals come before the end of the year. You know, this isn't just going to impact films and TV shows in development right now. It's going to impact promotion, award shows, and also, you know, pre-production as well. There'll be some shows and films that should get to live life on our screen, and they just won't get made, unfortunately. So fingers crossed things get resolved very, very quickly. But we do have a tiny bit of in development news. We have some casting news and a rumor.
That's right. Speaking of beloved actors, Javier Bardem, who won an Academy Award for his performance in No Country for Old Men, has joined the cast of Apple's upcoming Formula One racing film led by Brad Pitt. Of course, they were filming last week at the British Grand Prix. Lots of excitement for that film, and we look forward to hearing more news about that as it comes out. In the rumor department, Giant Freaking Robot reports that Brie Larson will star in an upcoming Apple original sci-fi thriller series called Synapse, where she'll play a scientist investigating a groundbreaking technology that allows people to enter a shared virtual reality. Does that sound familiar, Sigmund? As she delves deeper, she uncovers a conspiracy that threatens the fabric of reality itself. Now, Larson's no stranger to Apple TV Plus. She's playing the lead in Lessons in Chemistry, which premieres in October. So maybe we'll see their relationship continue in this new series, Synapse. But right now, we're calling this a rumor until we get some official news from Apple.
Now for some good news in terms of celebrating those behind our favourite memories from the year of TV and film. We have the Emmy nominations this week, and what an insane list of nominations from some of my favourite shows within the TV app, and a lot of nominations for Apple Originals this time around. I think this is a record. 54 nominations, Devon.
Yeah, 54 nominations for Apple Originals. Just incredible. And so many different titles, too, nominated, which is very, very cool to see. Let's start with Ted Lasso Season 3, which received 21 nominations itself. Wow. Including Outstanding Comedy Series, Lead Actor in a Comedy Series for Jason Sudeikis, Supporting Actor for Phil Dunster and Brett Goldstein, Supporting Actress for Juno Temple and Hannah Waddingham, Guest Actor in a Comedy Series for Sam Richardson, Guest Actress for Becky Ann Baker, Sarah Niles, and Harriet Walter. 3 nominations there, very cool. As well as nominations for Casting, Writing, 2 nominations for Single Camera Picture Editing, Production Design, Contemporary Hairstyling, 2 nominations for Original Music and Lyrics for both Fought and Lost and A Beautiful Game, Music Supervision, and Special Visual Effects. So a long list of nominations for Ted Lasso there.
And as much as we expected to see nominations for Ted Lasso, 21, I think that's more points than AFC Richmond got in their first season. So there we go. One that I'm really, really happy and excited for, still a Michael J. Fox movie, which came out a couple of months ago. We loved it to pieces. 7 nominations: Outstanding Documentary or Non-Fiction Special, Directing for a Documentary Non-Fiction Program, Cinematography for a Non-Fiction Program, Picture Editing, Music Composition for a Documentary Series or Special, Sound Editing for a non-fiction or reality program, and Sound Mixing for a non-fiction program. So really, really cool to see. One I'm really, really excited for as well is the inclusion of 4 nominations for Bad Sisters. We got Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series for Sharon Horgan, alongside Directing for a Drama Series for Deirdre Walsh, and nominations for Writing and Casting for a Drama Series as well.
That's right. Blackbird received 4 nominations. Great to see. Outstanding Lead Actor in a Limited or Anthology Series or Movie for Taron Egerton. Supporting Actor for Paul Walter Hauser and Ray Liotta. Great to see that as well. And Outstanding Cinematography for a Limited or Anthology Series or Movie. One of my favorites, Schmigadoon Season 2, received 3 nominations. Outstanding Production Design for a Narrative Program. Also nominations for their choreography and cinematography.
Now, I have no problem with that, and I don't have a problem with these nominations either, for, of course, the problem with Jon Stewart Season 2, which picked up Outstanding Talk Series, Outstanding Directing for a Variety Series, and Outstanding Technical Direction, Camera Work, and Video Control for a Special. One show that obviously I got to visit during production in LA with a friend of mine, CJ Gaspari, when we visited Warner Brothers Studios, is Shrinking, and that got 2 nominations: Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series for Jason Segel, alongside Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series for Jessica Williams. Unfortunately, nothing for Harrison Ford on his birthday. Shame on you, shame on you.
5 Days at Memorial was nominated for Special Visual Effects. Prehistoric Planet was nominated for Music Composition. Selena Gomez, My Minded Me received a nomination for Outstanding Writing for a Nonfiction Program. For All Mankind Season 3 Experience was nominated for Outstanding Emerging Media Program. Of course, you got to throw in Carpool Karaoke the Series, which was nominated for Outstanding Short Form Comedy, Drama, or Variety Series. Hello Tomorrow for Outstanding Main Title Design. And several Apple commercials were nominated for Outstanding Commercial, including Call Me with Timothée Chalamet, Quiet the Noise AirPods, Ripley On, and my personal favorite, The Greatest for Accessibility.
And that's not all. We also have the Apple Music Super Bowl halftime show starring Rihanna getting nominations for Outstanding Live Variety Special, Outstanding Production Design for a Variety Special, Directing for a Variety Special, Music Direction, and Outstanding Technical Direction and Camera Work for a Special. Of course, lots of nominations, lots of categories. Winners will be announced September 18th, so slightly later this year for the Emmys. A great week for me to be rounding out my birthday week. So looking forward to that one, Devon. This episode is sponsored by Sequel, the ultimate app for keeping track of movies, shows, games, books, and audiobooks. Now, Devon, I talked about collections last week, but I believe you had a particular aspect of using Sequel and Sequel Plus that you wanted to highlight.
That's right. For me, one of the best things about using Sequel is that it helps me get excited for the shows, movies, and other media that are coming up. The app has an upcoming section that shows you a really nice list of everything you've added to your library in chronological order, like a timeline of things to look forward to. But beyond that, Sequel Plus includes some really great widgets to keep track of this sort of thing as well. I keep the upcoming widget on my home screen, which shows me the next several releases across all media types. And when there's a particular title that I just really can't wait for, I can add a countdown widget to mark off the days until it arrives. So it's great not only for tracking what I'm enjoying now, but for anticipating all of the great stuff I'm going to get to experience in the future, whether it be an Apple original series, a book I want to read, or a film that I'm going to see in theaters. And the widgets really enhance that experience for me.
Yeah, I've got to say, I had this personal experience as well with the widget this week, watching the latest Mission Impossible film, and just that kind of joy of being able to mark it as watched and then have that very quick star rating. I absolutely love Sequel, and you can download Sequel using the link in the show notes. Use code MAGIC for up to 25% off your first year of Sequel Plus. And that offer is valid through the month of July. Once again, thank you to Sequel for sponsoring Magic Rays of Light.
And with that, Sigmund, I think it's time for this week's Apple TV releases, starting, of course, with Apple Arcade. Big release this week, I know highly anticipated in the Apple community. This week, we're seeing Ridiculous Fishing EX come to Apple Arcade from Vlambeer, Zach Gage, and Greg Woolwind in collaboration with Co-op. This is a 3D remake from the original team of the classic game about fishing with guns, chainsaws, and toasters, I think. Follow Billy as he tries to find redemption from his uncertain past, chase your destiny on the high seas, and embark on a heroic quest for gills and glory. This 3D remake features a pro fishing tour in-game mode and all new guest fish. It's available now on iPhone, iPad, Mac, and Apple TV with your Apple Arcade subscription.
I will be checking this one out on Apple TV this week for sure. And I'll be doing so whilst I get some podcasts on. Of course, not just Magic Rays of Light. Yes, I listen back myself, Devon. But we have some Apple original podcasts, with Friday seeing the return of the official Foundation podcast, a companion podcast, giving further insight into the story, but also behind the scenes of production, which is really, really exciting. And on Monday, we have a new episode of Undercover of Night, alongside the return of After the Whistle on Wednesday, hosted by Brendan Hunt and Rebecca Lowe. This time, it returns for a second season featuring coverage of the 2023 Women's World Cup tournament, which I have seen adverts for across the TV app already, which is a joy to see. And, you know, England, I think we've got a good chance with this tournament, unlike the men's tournament. So really looking forward to this one. Check it out when it hits podcast feeds on Wednesday. Going from the global game to a game that obviously is seen around the globe, but is very much an American sport. Friday Night Baseball returns with Los Angeles Dodgers at New York Mets, followed by San Francisco Giants at Pittsburgh Pirates. And this week, we have a really, really special MLS Season Pass week, with not just the Cup games that are going on and the League games, but a very special match happening between the MLS All-Stars, managed by Manchester United legend Wayne Rooney, versus Arsenal FC from North London. And that game happens on July 20th. So lots and lots happening for the sports fans. What's happening in the world of Apple Originals this week on Apple TV?
Lots to get excited about for Apple Originals. On Friday, we've got the premiere of Foundation Season 2, as well as new episodes of Swagger and The Crowded Room. And then on Wednesday, we've got new episodes of Hijack and The After Party. I believe this particular episode of The After Party, Sigmund, really caught your eye, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Episode 3 is called Travis, and it sees Grace's former boyfriend tell his mind movie in the style of a film noir. And it dives headfirst into the world of cryptocurrency and more. It's black and white. It is like your old 50s noir. And if you love noir films like Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train or Humphrey Bogart in A Lonely Place, you'll love this. But for me, personal favourites like the campy Kiss Me Deadly or The Maltese Falcon, where Paul Walter Hauser has drawn influence with this comedic gold, just a fantastic delivery, a fantastic performance. Definitely my highlight for the first half of this new season for The After Party. One to look forward to, Devon.
I completely agree. I haven't seen the episode yet, but Paul Walter Hauser, his comedy is what I'm looking forward to most about this season, so I can't wait to see his episode this Wednesday on Apple TV+. There's a really cool extra for After Party fans as well. You can log on to Edgar and Grace's wedding website. Of course, we'll link that in the show notes. It's a very detailed website. I was surprised by how much was included, including like the menu for the ceremony and stuff like that. I imagine there must be some clues there. I haven't found anything that particularly speaks to my theory just yet. I'll be scouring that website over the coming weeks to see what I can find.
I tried to register a gift for the registry. It wouldn't allow me. I put my email in, nothing. So maybe there's a clue later on that will allow me to get into an extra part of that site. Definitely one to keep your eye out on the After Party Reddit, I think. Now, alongside that, we got a very fun extra. Of course, Platonic saw its season finale this week, and it ended with a really cool collection of bloopers that I've enjoyed. I feel like they just had so much fun, both on and off camera. And Platonic just so happens to be our series recap this week from the director of Neighbours. A platonic pair of former best friends approaching midlife reconnect after a long rift. The duo's friendship becomes more consuming and destabilizes their lives in an hilarious way.
Your friendship with Will is not built for this phase of life.
Oh, geez.
This is how a woman experiences a midlife crisis. You're like a couple of teenage girls. Your whole thing is so weird and destructive.
Can you believe she said we were destructive?
No, we're exactly the opposite.
We are constructive.
We're constructive.
I don't like feeling like the second most important man in your life.
It's embarrassing being a mess in front of you. And Will's a much bigger mess than I am. All I want is for you to end up happy, you idiot!
Well, I am happy. I've never been happier in my life. Send me the invoice.
10 half-hour episodes. Had such a blast with this, Devon. I have the iPhone case to commemorate this season, that pink one that I mentioned before. I feel like I may be adopting some fashion choices from Seth Rogen's character, Will. And I loved Rose Byrne and Sylvia and their chemistry. Tell me your thoughts on season 1 of Platonic. And I'm going to say that because I really hope that we get more from all of the characters in this series.
I had some really high expectations for this one, just based on the main cast, Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne. Of course, love Rose Byrne in Physical, who we'll get to see again soon. Seth Rogen was also just hilarious. But putting them together, we know that as a pair, they really can bring out the comedy. And so I loved the premise for this one, just the idea of exploring friendship in midlife and what that can look like and what that can mean for people whose lives are really stable and maybe people's whose lives are not so stable, and what happens when you put those two people together. I think they bring out both the best and the worst in each other in ways that are just really, really funny. There were moments throughout the series too, though, that I thought were kind of touching, where it was really exploring those dynamics and maybe not trying to have like a lesson or anything like that, but did get into kind of an emotional heart of the relationships there too. And that really played into my favorite episode for the season. Now, I thought it'd be fun, Sigmund, before we jump into talking about our favorite episodes, maybe on the count of 3, we could each share what ours was. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
All right, I'll count us in. 1, 2, 3.
My wife's boyfriend.
Okay, so we had the same favorite episode.
You know what I love about this episode? It starts with, a queue at Yeasty Boys food cart. I love the name, by the way, Yeasty Boys, obviously a take on Beastie Boys. And you can check out their story on the TV app, an Apple original film. But also, it quickly moves from that to a t-shirt store mob, and then an LA trail, and then Will has his hair bleached by Sylvia, blonde. Then you have a baseball game, you have an electric scooter tossing contest, followed by an electric scooter bowling, and public singing and dancing. And then for a moment or two, it all kind of goes a little bit wrong. I just loved this episode. It was such a ride, Devon.
Yeah, it definitely was. I loved seeing Charlie and Will kind of start to develop a dynamic in this episode when they go to that baseball game together. I think Charlie's really trying to be a part of this aspect of his wife's world. The joke, of course, is that Will is Sylvia's boyfriend, and so that's where the title of the episode comes from. But I really just love seeing Charlie's kind of take on the whole situation. Of course, I think he's happy that Sylvia has a friend. Also maybe a little bit concerned about some of the decisions that are being made when Will and Sylvia are together. I love the way that the episode ends between Sylvia and Charlie, where they really come to an understanding of each other. They support each other. When Charlie comes to a place where, he recognizes that maybe he doesn't love all the things that Sylvia's doing, but it is coming from a place of her personality that he did fall in love with, right? Kind of comes to more deeply appreciate the relationship between Will and Sylvia and really see it as something that's good in Sylvia's life. I also loved the secret talent contest where they're all just kind of, sharing different strange things that they can do. It was a great combination of fun, comedy, and kind of that tenderheartedness at the end that really, it just spoke to me, and it stuck with me the rest of the series.
It's really funny. There are so many different elements to this show and the season where I felt like I was being seen on screen, which is really funny. You know, thinking of Charlie, actually, and, you know, his life is really dedicated to being a husband and to being a father. He doesn't really have much of a social group outside of work, and he's having to respect the social groups in which Sylvia has, right? And I found that really, really interesting because I've been in that kind of social situation before. Another episode that was kind of highlight to me, and again, kind of felt like drawed on some past experiences of my own. Those stories we'll leave for another time. But the Big 2-6 also has a storyline where I felt like I was reliving a huge mistake of my past. Really, really cringe, but also super, super hilarious.
Sigmund, I have to ask, have you found yourself in a situation where you're watching a live dance rendition of Starships by Nicki Minaj?
Not quite, but very, very similar. And that kind of moment that Will has of realization in the moment, yeah, I've had something very, very similar. A lot of the characters in here, I just wish we would get to see more of, to be quite honest with you. So we have characters from the bar, right? I think the bar itself could have its own show. Stuart, who falls asleep at the baseball and then complains about the seventh inning. I love him. But I also love like Sylvia's best girlfriend. And then also, you know, going back to that moment that we were talking about, that weird old guy hanging out with the young people and claiming to be in his 20s. You know, I think you could do so much with all of these characters. So I really hope that we'll see more from them and more seasons, because there is that connection between Will and Sylvia, and it maybe doesn't go the direction that you and I thought it might do at one point. And I feel like they could guide the story along really well for future seasons. Let's end on what you were expecting. Did you see any kind of romantic connection happening between Will and Sylvia?
Oh man, there were several points during this season that I completely expected that to pop up and be some kind of storyline. We talked about my wife's boyfriend when Will is kind of scared to tell Sylvia about his girlfriend, Peyton. And ultimately it's kind of about an age thing, but I thought maybe a little bit underlying that was maybe a little bit of Will having feelings for Sylvia and maybe not wanting to divulge his relationship, but that didn't play out. And then in the final episode, once they've both kind of gone off and lived their lives a little bit, they both pushed each other in good directions. You know, Sylvia finds kind of her purpose in her career. Will ends up moving off and doing something different, but something that he still loves, and they come back together at a wedding that Sylvia's planned. And during that final conversation where they're chatting and kind of, you know, reflecting on the past year of their lives and how they've pushed each other, I really just half expected them to start making out. I thought that would be like the final moment of the season, and then they'd leave us on a cliffhanger for the next. But that's not where the show went. It stuck to its name, kept the relationship, of course, platonic. But one thing that Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne have talked about in interviews is the chemistry between these two characters. It's not romantic chemistry, it's platonic chemistry. But the dynamic between the two of them is just so incredible. The way they really do draw out the best in each other and push each other to be their best, maybe in kind of weird and twisted ways, but ultimately it works for them. And so I actually love that they didn't end up going in that direction. And I hope that if they do a second season that they keep to that platonic centrality of their relationship, because I thought that was really unique in kind of the stories that are being told. Maybe it kind of speaks more to my expectations from other shows that I kept waiting for that to happen, but I love that they stuck with it. And I really do love the way season 1 ended. I agree with you. The world of the show is so big. There are so many more stories to tell. I could watch a whole series just about Omar. the guy from the bar
Yeah.
who takes over and starts putting Skittles and all kinds of other stuff into their mixes. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, I would love to see a season 2, again, as long as they stick to that Platonic ideal that they have implemented in season 1, and I believe they will. Season 1 of Platonic is streaming now on Apple TV Plus, with hopefully many more seasons to come in the near future. Now, moving from platonic friendship to maybe something a little bit more on the romantic side, Sigmund, your up next pick this week is an interesting one. What have you got for us?
Yeah, this week I'm moving away from highbrow entertainment to reality TV. I'm dipping my toe back into one of my guilty pleasures, and that is Too Hot to Handle, which returns for season 5 on Netflix. It's about a group of determined singles who visit paradise to meet, mingle, and get connected in more ways than one, except their plans for hanky-panky are stopped by this air freshener kind of personal assistant that lets them know that they're actually all on this island surrounded by beautiful people, and they're going to be celibate for a chance to win a collective $100,000, and should any of them kiss, grope, do any heavy petting, including self-love, money is taken away from this $100,000 cash prize. So it's very, very funny. I'm not too sure if it really works out this way, but there is an attempt to make things a little bit deeper in terms of self-respect and building a meaningful relationship on this tropical island. I'm not sure if that actually happens ever on this show. Not that I can remember, at least maybe for the cameras, but not in real life. Not the usual pick from me, Devon, but a lot of fun. Now, from reality TV to some art, I see the title Van Gogh. Following my up next pick, I think it's time for us to be cultured and learn a little bit more about Vincent van Gogh.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to disappoint you there, Sigmund. This is actually another reality show. It's spelled a little bit differently. It's VAN Go. And so it's actually it's a series from Discovery that I watched on Max about this guy named Brett Lewis, who runs a company called Chewy Design Co. that converts people's vans into mobile living spaces. And so the first episode is about a guy who runs a food truck, and he wants to be able to live in his food truck and then go around and sell his food and cook out of it as well. And so they have to convert this teeny tiny space into a living space / workable commercial kitchen where he can sell his goods and be on the go as well. So I'm fascinated by this kind of thing, tiny homes, all that kind of stuff, where you take just a little space and make it really economical and workable, and you can transform it into different things. I love that kind of thing. I'm fascinated by the van living movement that a lot of people seem to be going on. It seems like a really cool way to live, and so I love seeing different ways of doing that and how you can make that happen on Van Gogh. I watched it on Max because it's kind of integrated into some of their new offerings since they've relaunched, but it's also available on Discovery Plus as well. So those are our picks this week, some a little bit out of the ordinary, but maybe some new reality stuff to check out. That's all for our episode this week. We want to thank you so much for listening, and thank one more time Sequel for sponsoring this episode. If you want to reach out to us, you can contact us on social media via the links in the show notes, and you can email the show or send us an iMessage to mrolfm@screentimes.net.
We'll be back next week with a mid-year review of Apple's original slate for 2023, as well as our favourites from the TV app. So until then, stay safe, watch some Apple TV, play some Apple Arcade, and...
Thanks for listening. Please respect and enjoy the peace.